Hello, everyone. This is Andrew Berman for Mortgage Leadership Outlook. Thank you for joining us today on this beautiful Wednesday. Hopefully, it's beautiful where you are. So today, I am so excited to have a longtime friend of mine and just someone actually who I really just look up to, Sue Woodard. Sue, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's going to be a good time.
It always is when you're around, So I had the pleasure of basically tracking Sue, going to a bunch of cities, hearing her speak, to hundreds, sometimes thousands of mortgage professionals, and I've learned so much about her. I've learned so much about the industry. So I've been privileged to know your origin story. But Sue, if you could, for the benefit of our guests, tell everyone your origin story.
I will. And it's interesting because if you ever want to start an interesting conversation with somebody in the mortgage industry, it's to ask them how they got in, because everybody has some crazy story. It's never a normal straight path. No little kids on the playground saying, I want to be a loan officer, right? But
never the same.
Yeah, exactly. So I had dropped out of college and I was working in a credit union, and I was working in this credit union and I was doing checking accounts and car loans and all kinds of different consumer lending. And our branch kept getting robbed. So we got robbed multiple times. And the third time, it was my best friend, my roommate. She was the head teller. And it was kind of, it was a little traumatic. And it was at gunpoint. And we had to go down to the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. And she had to look at lineups and everything. And I just thought, man, I got to go work in a different branch. This is crazy. And the only branch that had a job open was another branch out in a different, part of the city. And it was a mortgage processor. And I had no idea what a mortgage processor was, but I was like, I'm going to go give it a go. And so that was literally how I got started, was out of fear for my life, I would say. But the rest is history. I had a ton of fun. I love the mortgage industry, and you know this about me. I'm just so passionate about it because I think it's, like the people that make like chapstick. I'm sure they're like, we make people's lips soft, but what we do is we get people into homes, right? And your home is where your life happens. It's where your family happens. It's where you laugh and you cry and you live and just do life. And so that gets me right here. And so it's something that I think as we're guiding through people through the most, for a lot of people, the largest financial transaction of their entire lives. And we're helping create truly a home for them and building communities. I think that's an incredible thing. So I have loved my 30 years in the mortgage industry.
So listen, I gotta. It didn't happen like you didn't just get into the mortgage business and fall in love with it right away. So like, where was it? Because listen, I mean, you started actually as a processor, and okay, I understand you love your work. You love it. I don't know many processors that love their work. So when was it where you went from, okay, this is not only a good career, but this is something I love and I found my calling?
Yeah, it was actually when I had I moved on from the credit union. I was working at Countrywide Home Loans, right? And Countrywide, for those of you who were in the business a million years ago like me, was cradle to grave, right? Where you kind of did everything. So I came in as a processor, or we had a different name for it. But anyways, I came in as a processor. But I remember the guy I was working for, I'll never forget him, Patrick Groh. He one day said, why don't you take this next loan application? And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this executive was coming in and, I was like, I don't know how to take a loan application. He said, no, just do it. I did a horrible job taking this application. I remember just like sweating, like taking this loan because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But I remembered leaving that and number one saying, I'm never going to let that happen again. So I'm going to learn everything about taking this loan application. And then, I did move into a role where it was cradle to grave. That's what we did, is that we took the loan application, we processed it. We had underwriting authority then. We had, we'd do the closing papers, we'd fund it, we'd ship it, we did everything. And I think being able to see that whole experience and literally just watch that, come to life for people, was where I really just fell in love with it, because you could see literally people's dreams coming true.
Sue, that is one of the things I've learned about people that come from Countrywide. like you, they're all encompassing. They know actually a lot about many different parts of the business. And they also work their butts off. I've heard actually that they used to call it country fried, just because you work hard there. You get compensated well, but man, the stories I used to hear about, actually, how they would just push you and push you and push you. And it's created so many great leaders from that organization.
Yep. It was a lot of work, and yes, I have heard it called a sweatshop, but I have to say I'm super grateful to the organization because I did learn a lot, and it was really, just that's where really it spurred my passion for the industry, was everything that I learned there.
That's great. That's awesome. So, all right, listen, we're gonna spring forward to the article you did actually. In the May-June issue of the Mortgage Women magazine, how to spring out of a slump. You talked about actually how you usually don't actually have slumps.
No.
You did. So talk a little bit about it, and for anyone who's watching, I'm going to drop actually the link so you can grab it right there. But talk a little bit about the article. You interviewed some of my favorite people in that article. Talk a little bit about your insights and what you learned from the people you interviewed.
Yeah, it was really fun, and I love this particular feature that I'm so blessed to be able to do for Mortgage Women magazine, is called Ask the Experts, and it is where I have the opportunity to go out and just tap into the great minds that are out there for their insight, advice, wisdom, guidance on a topic or an issue or a question that I'm struggling with. And so this particular one, I was in a bit of a spring slump. I was just and it doesn't happen to me very often, but I was having a hard time. I just was feeling, kind of down and just like having a hard time getting going. And I'll tell you, I believe for me, it was probably because of just the lack of connection to people. Winter in Minnesota, lack of connection, everything that had been going on. I mean, it just was, I was in a slump. So in this article, I talked to some amazing people and got some really incredible advice. And in some cases, I'm not going to give away all the secrets. You actually have to link to the article and be sure to read some of this great words of wisdom. But some people gave information about getting organized and apps. Like Brittany Hodak talked about calendar.com. And in some cases, there was literally apps that people mentioned or websites that they mentioned that they use. And that was probably the biggest help for me, was remembering I've always been very militant with time blocking, because we always say, we're going to do this thing and it's on your woulda, shoulda, coulda, to do someday list. But when you actually time block it out. And so I took a lot of those, the apps that people mentioned and the productivity apps that people recommended, and started putting things on my calendar. And so, for example, one of the things that I did is I needed to also I was having a hard time working out at home. Like I was just getting I was struggling with it. So I signed up for a race. So I signed up for a half marathon this summer. Ooh. Started blocking, using these apps, getting my calendar times blocked so that I would, go ahead and get started training. So that was really helpful. Somebody else talked about kind of tying an affirmation, kind of like just a positive phrase or a statement to some of the goals that you're trying to accomplish. And so the thing that I love about this group of women that participated is that they gave very tactical, practical advice. And so, like I said, link into this issue. There was a ton of stuff that I actually found, and I'm sure you will too, that if you're getting into that slumpy thing, there's some great productivity tips, how to keep your inbox cleaned out, purging the junk out of your life. And I'll tell you what, I took all of those things. I purged, I cleaned out closets. That's always a good thing for me too. I had developed a new way of sorting my inbox, thanks to Corey Trujillo. There's some really good stuff in there. So highly encourage people to check out that article, because it's a goodie and features some amazing people. So
are you at zero inbox now?
I'm not going to go so far as to say zero inbox, but I have a little bit more organized inbox. But some of it is clearing out your mental clutter. I think, this, again, the last year has been very interesting in a lot of ways, obviously, but I think it's caused some of us to maybe develop some new, good new habits, and maybe slip into some old, some bad habits, right? In terms of, just our houses, our lives, our organization, our stuff. And so I kind of treated it like a spring cleaning of, my house, of my fitness, of my, my inbox, and really it really helped kick me out of the slump. So it was a great, like I said, good article. Encourage y'all to link it and read some of the great advice there.
Fantastic. And if you look in the comments, you should see this whatever platform you're joining us on, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, the comments should be there. So, all right. So listen, here we're coming into spring. Events are happening, so we publish a bunch of events throughout the year. We've already had a handful of successful events. You and I were talking about actually how great it is to finally be able to get out there. You went actually and met with a client. Actually, you had a great visit. So talk to us a little bit about this new world and the new etiquette that we need to have. That just didn't exist when we stopped going to conferences in February of 2020.
Yeah, well, I'll give you my opinion on that, because I think we're going to we're obviously starting to see some conferences coming up live, and yes, I started traveling again, which has also been a good thing to bust me out of my mini slump that I was in there. But I think some of the things to remember, and that I'm just kind of guiding the folks that I'm talking to about this, is some of the ground rules have to just be about respect. And first of all, it's about respecting yourself. Your company might have policies that you need to be respectful of. And you personally probably have some feelings about this, but what's your own comfort level and what are you comfortable with? But then I would really encourage people to be very thoughtful about respecting others, operate with a lot of respect and caution, and don't make assumptions. I think, in this time, because we've been insular, we've been all kind of, cooped up, and in some cases, spending a lot of time with people that think like we think. And I would tell you that you're probably 1 degree of separation away from people that think very differently than you do. And it doesn't mean, I think we should be careful about leaping to conclusions about what that means. Like I said, you see somebody with 3 or 5 masks on, don't say, well, gosh, they're just a crazy person. Maybe they've had somebody, that this is impacted very closely. Maybe they have somebody that's home with a lot of risk factors, and they're wanting to be extra cautious. You know what? Let's respect that. You see somebody else behaving in a different way. Again, let's just operate with not making assumptions about other people. Everything has become so political and so divisive. And I think we've got an opportunity to just really kind of get back out there. When you're ready to get back out there, if you're ready to get back out there, be respectful of where other people are at. And I think some of it is, if you haven't done a lot of traveling, I've still talked to a lot of people. You mentioned, Andrew, you just talked to somebody who just went out to a restaurant for like the first time in like 15 months or something, right?
Yep. 100%.
Holy cats. Okay.
Yeah.
So some people haven't traveled in a while, and obviously just do your research, know the city that you're going into and kind of what the protocol is. Know that when you're flying on a plane, you're going to be wearing a mask the whole time, and, just get yourself prepared for that. You're not going to get all the, food options and boxes and snacks, that you used to. You're not in a lot of hotels. You're not going to get housekeeping. So just be prepared for that. And, the mini bars seem to be empty. So bring your own snacks. Like, just be prepared. It's a little different out there. And so just be ready for those things as you go out. And as you do get ready to go visit, for example, if it's customers or whatever you're doing, understand, or know in advance what their comfort level is. And if you need to meet outside, get creative. I think Topgolf is probably going to have the greatest year ever. I should have bought stock, but think about how can you be creative doing outdoor things if that's what the folks you're visiting with are more comfortable with. Yeah. But like I said, let's just, all, get smart, be respectful, be okay with other people's decisions and boundaries, and just let's just get out there, do business, have fun, respect each other, and try to get rid of some of the divisiveness.
So, do we shake hands now? Like, can we get rid of the handshake and just go to like bowing or something?
Exactly. Somebody said that. They're like, let's go with like a little bow. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that'd be weird, but but I think that's that in and of itself. I mean, I was talking to somebody about this recently about the, shaking hands. And one of the things, just as a recommendation, if you're not comfortable shaking hands, I have heard people, when they go into an office, will just kind of wave, making it clear, like, I don't want to do this, or just kind of say, hey, it's nice to meet you, and keep your hand back here, and that's okay too. I'll usually ask people, I'll just get out, instead of doing the weird dance of like, are we handshake or bumping? Like, what are we doing? I'll usually just ask. I'll just be like, are you a handshake? Are you a hug, an elbow, or should we just wave at each other? What do you like? And they'll usually, you'll be able to tell, right? I'm a hugger, you know me. So
Yeah.
like I said, I'm always going to want to go in for a hug, but I'm trying to, just ask people, hey, where are you at? Because, I'll come at you with a hug, but if you want an elbow bump, that's good for me too.
That's good. But the worst thing actually is if you go to shake the hand next thing and they fist bump your hand. I mean, that's,
Yeah, then you're like, exactly. Well, like I said, I usually just throw the awkwardness just right out there, right into the middle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. What are we going to do? We're going to hug. We're going to handshake. We're going to fist bump. We're just going to be like, hey.
Exactly.
A little wave. That's
right.
All right. So listen. So you went out with meeting with customers. I want to know what's on their mind. Like what do you see actually is like they're like the biggest tech obstacles that are facing lenders? Maybe it's not tech obstacles. They shouldn't say tech obstacles, but you are technology based. But I almost look at actually it's your operations. So what are the biggest obstacles that are facing mortgage lenders?
A couple of different things I would tell you. The first one is data. Right? Because the biggest obstacle that I think a lot of lenders will talk about is that their data is in multiple systems. It's in, they've got it in the LOS, they've got it in this CRM, they've got it in that CRM, or they haven't really gotten it even coordinated as a company and they're letting people use, a dozen different things and they're not able to really get their data in one place. And it's incredibly powerful to once you get your data into one system and then you can really start learning things from the data. So it's not just about, the really good execution that you can have in terms of a great customer experience and a great customer journey, but you can start to learn things from that data, right? You can start to, find those triggers of, okay, this is a group of people that are ready to refinance. So let's get this campaign out there. This is a group of people that, have those credit triggers that are popping up. So we know that we need to approach them about this. You're just able to be, so much smarter and so much more intelligent when you have all of your data in one place. So putting data in one place, I would say is an obstacle and an opportunity, I would say. The other piece is really just getting the tech stack, kind of just cleaning up the tech stack. I think, we were talking a little bit before we started about kind of what last year was like for Total Expert. We actually had a great year last year, partly because the mortgage industry had a great year last year. People were able to, lift up a little bit and kind of say, wow, we've got all this volume, but how do we actually do this better, knowing that we're going to head into a market that's not going to be quite the same, right? I mean, originations are going to be down this year. And so I think for a lot of companies, it's taking the time to really be thoughtful about your tech stack and make sure that you have, the beauty of a lot of the technology solutions today, including Total Expert, is that, everybody's really looking at an API integration forward strategy so that you can have your own secret sauce of what your technology stack is going to be, and that the solutions are talking to each other so that you do accomplish that data in one place. So those are some of I think the big, I would say obstacles and opportunities. And I think part of it is really just, it's been hard, I think, for a lot of leaders to get, to get certain things implemented with their loan officers just because they're so busy. And again, I spent a lot of years as a loan officer, and I was one of those people saying like, I don't have time for this thing right now because I'm just too busy doing what I do. But I think we're definitely seeing a big shift with that as smart originators that are out there, like, many of the folks who are listening to us today are starting to say, hey, you know what, I know I'm going to need to make some changes in my business so that I'm positioned for the long haul, that I'm positioned for the purchase business, excuse me. And, I think particularly related to the purchase market, there's a lot of relationships out there that potentially are up for grabs. I mean, I would tell you that if you aren't paying a lot of attention to those realtor relationships, somebody else is. And I would also say that means there's other relationships out there that somebody should have been paying attention to and wasn't, right? That there's just a lot of opportunity, but I think really doing the right thing by your referral partners, bringing them value, adding value into the relationship, really being thoughtful about that referral partner journey and that customer journey, and then utilizing technology to automate that. That's the magic.
And within that magic, there's some tricks to address the margin compression. Talk to us because I know you mentioned actually a couple of opportunities within actually the CRM to be able to find new business. But what are some other things actually that are popular when companies are just trying to say, hey, what do we need to do to make sure actually that our margins are still healthy?
Yeah, well, a couple of different things. I mean, one is I do think that this is where, technology can really make a big difference. I mean, I think you should always be looking to automate all of the things that you can. And I don't mean that because technology is not here to replace the loan officer, but if technology can automate an amazing experience or an amazing process, that's what you want technology to do, so that you can utilize your human capital and the relationships that loan officers are able to make with those referral partners or with those customers, free up their time to just do that and automate everything else that you can. And so I think when we're getting in a position of margin compression, it may seem contrary to say, hey, invest in technology. But wherever you can automate parts of your process, utilizing technology, not to replace the loan officer, but to empower that loan officer, is really important. And part of it is going to be a numbers game, right? Because there's a lot of people ramped up their operations. And so you've got to keep, the lower your volume goes down, the more, your cost per loan is going up with the operations that you have in place. And so again, just really being, obviously thoughtful about how you're going to get, your share, your piece of the pie, or more than your piece of the pie, so that you can, do your part to keep your volume high, but keep it as efficient as possible. So that's part of it, is purely a volume play.
Speaking of pie, the pie is going to get smaller next year. Our most popular article this week has been the NBA reporting $1 trillion drop in production from 2020. Yeah, so it is insane. Now keep in mind that is also NMLS. I forget exactly the number. I believe it was like something like somewhere between 10 and 20% increase in LO counts. So there's more originators out there. So for the people that are watching this, that have hired new loan officers, that are, the ink is still actually, still wet on their license.
Yeah.
What kind of ideas or tips can you give to these managers, to these owners, to these, these vice presidents that have originators out there that need to figure out a way to create business because the phone's just not going to ring anymore?
Yeah. Well, in some cases, everything that's old is new again, right? And in some cases, I mean, the great thing about some of the new folks coming into the business is that we're getting, some Gen Zs, we're getting some millennials, we've got, younger folks coming into the business. I think, and you'll probably know the exact number, but I think that the average age of a loan officer is still 50 something, if I remember right? I think it's 52. So I'm like probably right at that age. But the great thing about this, a lot of the newer folks coming in is that they're young and they're going to have an ability to tap into their network in a different way, in a way that, they've got a different group of people that they're able to connect to, doing their social media, for example. I mean, we have, I would say most of our customers at Total Expert are pretty social media forward, where they're really encouraging people to be out there, make those connections. But it's understanding, where is your group of people? Who are the people that you're trying to find as your customer? And then go be where they're at. Are they on TikTok? Are they on Instagram? My daughter tells me Facebook is like super passe. She said, we go on there only for like you and grandma, mom. But
it's for boomers.
Exactly. Okay,
tell me all the time.
I know, right? But it's really, I think it's being thoughtful about who, where is your audience? Where is your group of people that you're going to connect with, and then be there. And I also think the brands that I see really winning are the ones that are combining, again, as I was mentioning a minute ago, human and technology, and letting your humans truly be human. Let your humans have kind of their personal brand. And I don't necessarily mean their own colors and logos, but let your personality show up. People don't do business with companies. People do business with people. And when you're doing something like purchasing a home, don't lose sight of the fact this is a personal and kind of an emotional deal for most people. Generally, when you're purchasing, a life event is happening. Something, they're getting married, getting divorced, somebody's been born, somebody's died, something emotional is happening, and they want to be able to connect with a human being. Granted, yes, you want to utilize technology to make it streamlined and make it easy. But man, when they reach out that hand and want a human being, you want to have made that connection with that person so that they know why they're reaching out to you. So the two halves of it is, again, figuring out who is your audience, who are the people you're going to get in contact with, how are you going to, actually make that connection, but utilize technology to do that. I mean, there's so many tools that are out there, and many of the companies I'm sure that are listening today have a beautiful suite that is there for their originators to take advantage of. And so as an originator, you do have to sometimes pull up a little bit and set aside time. The way I always looked at it, Andrew, I actually would call it a sick day. Is I tell people, you think you don't have time to do any of these things, right? But what if you got sick? What if you just got sick for a day? The world wouldn't end if you took one day and were sick. So why don't you take a sick day and actually build your business, right? Carve out one day, put all the noise aside. Yes, you might delay one call, maybe, but it's worth it if you put those building blocks in place that are going to actually power your future and make you more efficient to come. And so I do hope that a lot of the newer folks coming into the business really, really embrace the technology that's out there, because again, you want to automate all those things you can so that you are there and you are free to take that call from that person that really needs that human connection from you.
That's awesome. I love it. Listen, I'm getting a lot of themes here. Using technology, but using that actually to build a human connection. Mortgage lenders need to obviously step up their game to address margin compression with technology. Just as always, I love your origin story. Some great tips actually on things to do actually to get out of the slump. Sue, it's always great to spend time with you. You're just always so inspiring and motivating, and I just feel blessed to have you on our show today.
Well, thank you. I always enjoyed the time spent with you, and I'm hoping that we get time in real life before too much longer. And to all of you out there, I know there's a lot of friends out there that I'm hoping that we're together soon. And I promise I won't hug you unless you want it. But I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing everybody soon.
I'm a hugger too. So yeah, that's perfect. So, all right, listen, check all right, everyone, check out the link below. You'll be able to find actually Sue's article plus a ton of other great articles. It's right there. Sue, thank you again. We really, really appreciate it. And everyone, thank you for joining us for another Mortgage Leadership Outlook. We will be off next week. Memorial Day week, but we will be back the next week with Tech Stack Heroes. We're so excited. We basically have a handful of carefully selected Tech Stack heroes that are going to be joining us. So please join us. And if you are listening to us on a podcast platform, because we're now actually on every podcast platform, thank you for joining us. And please leave some reviews if you could. And we appreciate it. Everyone, have a great day.